From courtside of the virtual hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast. This is episode 536. I'm Andrew Forum, Andrew NLSC on X. With me as always, my co-host Derek, DV3 Forum, and DV3G and DV384 on X. Derek, time once again to talk about two of our favourite things, basketball and basketball video games. But as always, I'll throw over to you to let the listeners know what we're going to be talking about this week.
We are going to start the show discussing NBA 2K League news, as it was announced that they were making job cuts and hitting the pause button due to a lack of demand and industry decline. The community provided insight on how Take-Two could make the league better, so we will get to those community responses. And lastly, we will be discussing a NBA Live 10 session where you and I use Team USA versus CPU Argentina. So the NBA 2K League, Andrew, Dexerto announced that the CEO held a meeting firing everybody and logged off. The future of the league is unclear. In a follow-up post, they state, the NBA 2K League released its update following the town hall, saying it is reimagining the league into a global digital entertainment business. I don't know what they were imagining it was going to be before, but it sounds like that's probably what they were hoping it was going to be anyway. A global digital entertainment business.
You think?
Yeah, you think. But apparently this is reimagining. But I want to direct our audience to a front office sports article, which states, esports winter, NBA 2K League hits pause button amid industry decline. And I'm just going to read a few notes. This article was written by Eric Fisher on July 3rd, 2024. He states, the previously high-profile EA Sports League is now effectively on hiatus amid widespread layoffs. The property now intends to lean more into influencer-based content, including from NBA and WNBA players. And he states, 5 years ago, Monumental Sports and Entertainment Chairman Ted Leonis notably said that, I believe that in 10 years, an NBA 2K player will be more well-known, popular, and better compensated than LeBron James.
Be cool.
It's just math. It's just math, he says. That's just a wild prediction. So he continues with, not only is that prediction becoming more elusive with James' new $104 million contract extension with the Lakers, but the league Leonis was lauding then is now fundamentally retrenching amid a broader sluggishness across esports. The NBA-backed NBA 2K League, which debuted in 2018 and marked the first major U.S. sports league to form its own EA Sports property, on Tuesday said it is, quote-unquote, revamping its operations to focus on influencer-based content driven in part by NBA and WNBA players and other celebrities, instead of continuing as a more traditional esports property. Additionally, gaming and entertainment news website Dexerto reported that most of the current NBA 2K League staff has been laid off. With those moves, the league is now effectively on hiatus until next year. And I'm going to read a couple of the tweets from those who were laid off. This is a life-altering experience for a lot of these players, Andrew. And then, quote, the future business will combine NBA and Take-Two brand assets and seek to engage consumers who live and play where pop culture, gaming, and basketball collide, the league said in a statement, which also promised more details on our 2025 competitive season in the coming months. So this is no surprise to you and I. We've talked about the 2K League off air many times. We've talked about how their social media channels have a ridiculous lack of engagement. In fact, you and I get more engagement on our posts on social media, and we are very small accounts. There's not a lot of people that tune into these games. There hasn't been a lot of excitement. I know that the 2K League itself was putting out a top plays of the week thing, kind of like we do at the NLSC, where we do our top 10 plays of the week, and basically crickets, honestly, on those posts. I don't think that it was a hit at all.
Well, they weren't good highlights either. I mean, that's your the highlights that we get from the community that you put together in your well-produced top 10 every week just put their efforts to shame. So it's no surprise.
Right. I believe our countdown is also, I'm not just saying it because I put it out, but I do think it's better produced. It's more exciting, right?
Absolutely.
The old, NBA 2K music with it or NBA Live music. There's rhythm to it. There's flow to it. There's fun to it. It's just something worth tuning into. But like I stated, you and I had just many conversations off air talking about, when is this going to collapse? It's not sustainable. The games aren't made well enough in order to produce a strong competitive product. This isn't surprising to either of us.
Not at all, not at all. And there's a lot of corporate speak there that was mentioned when you were reading that out, and just logging on and basically saying, you're all fired, that's it, and then just logging off is very big corporation. No surprises there. Like you say, very life-altering for these people who have sometimes moved, obviously, to take part in the league, moved countries, certainly moved cities at the very least, to take part in this and kind of really gone all in as a profession. And it's not surprising. The league has not produced very entertaining games. Like you said, the viewership very low. When it was being promoted by the NBA's social media accounts, on Facebook at least, I saw a lot of comments saying, what is this? What is this BS? What is this garbage? This isn't NBA. This isn't even good virtual basketball. So it is definitely no surprise that it's fallen apart. But at the same time, it is a huge shame that something that was supposedly oriented towards the community and about the community and about a game that we're playing has fallen apart like that, and it's now going towards celebrities and influencers.
And we'll get to the full community responses a little later, but Sticky Fingers and the Live King both echoed what you and I have talked about so many times. The league is going to fail. It's not going to look good. People are going to be turned off by it, as long as the game itself isn't a strong performer on the virtual hardwood from a gameplay perspective, right? If the gameplay is not good, if the gameplay does not look good, if it doesn't produce truly exciting action, fun action, and oftentimes realistic action that people want to see, it's going to be a massive turnoff, and people are not going to want to watch or, tune in general. And, compare that to a movie. If if a movie comes on and the plot sucks, right, and the actors are poor overall, are you going to want to sit through 2 hours?
No, not at all.
That you're going to turn that off. The movie's probably going to do poorly at the box office. It's just not going to be received well. And we've talked about it. We said 2K18 was the worst game possible that they could have chosen to start the 2K League with. It was the first entry into a new motion system. It had a lot of gameplay issues that needed to be fixed. And honestly, the gameplay issues that were in 2K18 have not been fixed, in my opinion, Andrew. I mean, there's still a major issue with foot planning. There's even more suction today. There's double to triple the artificial boosts in today's 2Ks than there were in NBA 2K18. So the game is absolutely flooded with even more canned sequences. There's more ball warping in the newest 2Ks. There's more herky-jerky movement in the newest 2Ks over NBA 2K18. So they haven't improved the on-court product from a visual perspective. So how do you expect the league to be received well or grow in popularity if the core game is not fun to watch?
Exactly, and that is the bottom line. I did mention community-oriented, and I think that's a key as well, because, and I've said this ever since the 2K League tipped off, both in an article, both in a Monday Tip-Off article, and on the podcast at the time, that this 2K League doesn't benefit the home user any way. It doesn't benefit the community, really. You've got some people living out their dreams of playing a video game for a living. That's cool and all. And you've given the community something to watch, not a good product to watch, which is a big part of the problem, obviously. But it doesn't positively impact us, the people who are buying the games and playing them every year, or seeking to play them every year anyway. If anything, the 2K League has been a detriment to the home users, because it's affected the way that 2K Pro-Am works, the way that the Rec works. It's introduced a culture of people wanting to play like the 2K League, or play like they are the elite gamers when they're definitely not, or play a style that is certainly nothing to do with real basketball, and trying to metagame and everything. And obviously that's also affected the build system. They're trying to make it kind of like the home version of the 2K League. So really, it's been a negative for the home user.
Oh, no, 100%. And I also want to point out that you mentioned play style. Who wants to watch that, right? And if people are emulating some of that play style in, the park or in the rec or whatnot, I can see why it's boring or frustrating to play. Watching the 2K League, it's a lot of, trying to avoid the game's issues, right? A lot of passed up layups because people are worried about them getting sucked into the defender and missing easy gimmies. So you see oftentimes in the 2K League, people driving to the hoop, and where they would have a completely open layup or dunk in real life because the defender could never get there in time or affect it, they're passing out to the 3-point line in order to try to get a three or a more open look, because it feels like the 2K League gamers are often just trying to dodge game issues, right? While they play. Who wants to watch a league where people are trying to dodge game issues, and in turn they're basically all the teams look like they're playing the same, right?
Well, cynically, I would say that also emulates the current NBA product as well, but
yeah, not to that level though.
True.
Like listen, on NBA TV, they were showing a lot of the NBA 2K League, and while I was working, I would have the NBA TV on in the background. So I got to, kind of look in on a lot of the footage, a lot of the matchups, etc. It was dull. It was super boring. The game doesn't show well. So the players are like water bugging around the court, jerking around, ball warping hand to hand, teams playing all the same, etc. It was a drag. And you know what? It's not the 2K League players' fault. And nobody's saying that they're bad at the game, right? But what they're doing during those games is they're kind of just trying to dodge gameplay issues and do it better than their opponent in order to win the game, right? Or take advantage of game cheese in order to get themselves to win the game. This isn't like watching a first-person shooter.
I was going to say, yeah.
Competition. Those are a lot more popular than the 2K League. If you're trying to emulate a sport like basketball, you need to have a much stronger gameplay base, and you need to have interesting characters also playing these games. And they were never able to find that right combination, and the game was never strong enough. And that is some ridiculous predictions by Leonis, especially the LeBron James line, Andrew.
Very lofty expectations, very corporate speak once again. And you're absolutely right. With NBA 2K being very animation heavy, if you look at, as you say, first-person shooters, if you look at fighting games, if you look at Rocket League, things that are more physics-based, things that aren't as animation heavy, where you're getting stuck in these predetermined dunk animations and so forth, then it has a more organic style of gameplay. And you say, oh, this person is really skilled at this game that rewards skill. We talk about the skill gap, and a lot of people talk about the skill gap in NBA 2K with all the boosts, with all the animation-heavy mechanics. The skill gap is not there as they think it is. Things like shot aiming and other things like the limitations on sprint and so forth, they talk about them as if they're skill gap, but at the end of the day, they're still relying on triggering animations, whereas something like a Rocket League, you are actually having to maneuver the rocket car into the ball to kick it into the goal and to block it and so forth. First-person shooters, fighting games, etc. There are people who are very skilled on the sticks, and it shows. You can't demonstrate that with the mechanics of NBA 2K, or a lot of sports games. And this is the ironic thing, Derek, is that sports games, even though they are depicting a real sport, are often some of the worst for esports because of how animation-heavy they are.
Yeah, I think that the biggest mistake that 2K has made with their basketball video game series is making it so reliant on boosts, making it so reliant on canned animations, making it so reliant on the opposite of true skill, right? I feel like a lot of the gameplay issues stem from that direction. And it's unfortunate because I think that there's a lot of people out there that are craving a truly competitive basketball experience, a truly competitive basketball video game experience. And if they were able to create a better product with less artificial boosts, with more true skill gap, and fix a lot of those issues that I've talked about so many times on the NLC podcast from a gameplay perspective, they might actually have a more popular league. And I also want to point out, I don't think they did a good job promoting the NBA 2K League overall. I don't think that the channel itself, I'm going to use the Twitter channel, for example, I don't think they did a good job showcasing the highlights, showcasing the league, covering the players, all of that stuff. It almost felt to me a little bit like a lazy effort overall, or a low priority. So I also want to point out, there was the end of this article. It states bigger issues. The NBA 2K League's woes are far from isolated. Despite previously heady predictions, far beyond those of just Leonis, for the growth of esports, the overall market has been declining for more than a year. That retreat, branded within the industry as a so-called esports winter, has been marked by a series of layoffs, team closures, falling valuations, financial losses, and missed expectations in terms of viewership. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they lost money with this league. It ends with, in addition to those larger challenges, sports as a content genre has struggled within esports, with many fans and competitors preferring other types of games such as first-person shooters. And I also want to point out before I throw it back to you, I'm not saying that the people who were working in the league as far as like doing the commentary, the gamers themselves, the people that were participating on the teams, the behind the scenes people who were recording, behind the cameras, the people that were showing it for NBA TV, all of that stuff. I am not saying that any of those people were lazy, right? No. I'm not saying that any of those people are not talented. They are amazingly talented. I'm not saying that, anything negative about those people. I am saying that the game could have been advertised better on social media, and it could have been shown better. And I believe that portion was more than likely lower priority. At least that's the way it came off to me.
Oh, I agree. And those paragraphs also echo the point that we just made, that first-person shooters, games like Rocket League, and fighting games do tend to be more popular to watch. People don't want to watch the virtual sports as much as those other games, because once again, I do think when you aren't as animation heavy, when you're more clearly demonstrating stick skills as opposed to just triggering pre-made animations, and people who want to watch basketball are probably going to watch real basketball rather than other people play virtual basketball, at least competitively. And it is funny, because if you look at King J Mace, for example, our friend King J Mace, and his streams, they're fantastic, but the 2K League, not so much.
And I think King J Mace puts out a better product.
Yes.
Right? Because basically on his streams, he's doing the commentary. It's super fun. It's super exciting. There's entertainment value with his approach. He also brings in people to that league and into those streams from all around the world. And it's from the inexperienced to the experienced gamers. You see all different variations of play style. You don't see like the constant 5 out. You don't see people passing up layups constantly. You see more real basketball strategy. And you can, kind of take interest in the successes and failures that are happening on the court in his streams. So I think that King J Mace puts out a better product than what we see in the NBA 2K League. I also want to point out that because of this, there's been some drama, right? Because people are, the 2K League players are frustrated. There's a lot of people who have put, 5-6 years of their life aside to be part of this league. And for some people, it was their main source of income, at least that's judging by what these people are saying. And some people, are going to have trouble finding jobs in this industry. If they can't, do it for NBA 2K, where do they go in the esports realm, Andrew? Right? Yep. So these people now in the real life world, a lot of these people are younger people. They have gaps in their resume, especially if they put their life on hold thinking that this was going to be a long-term career. And it's not just the players either. There was somebody who did commentary. His name is Derek_JDR on Twitter. And on July 2nd, he stated, "I've given my all to this league for 7 years. It has been 80% of my income since 2018. I had to broadcast every single show this year with always wondering what my future looks like after taking a massive pay cut this year." So there were pay cuts, right? Even just this year. And, he goes on to state, even if the league is still around, you're asking people to pause their life for over a year to just immediately pick up an opportunity. When we are adults, we have families, we have responsibilities. Hard to even process what the actual F is going on, man. So that's tough to hear, right? Like he said, a lot of people have been using this as their primary income. And this sounds like it also came as somewhat of a surprise. It happened abruptly during a town hall, and all of these people just found out that they no longer have jobs. And yeah, I feel for the people that were involved in the league.
Once again, very corporate. And to that point, is it too cynical of me to suggest that maybe the suits could take some of that revenue that they make from microtransactions and kind of have a fund for these people in the short term, instead of putting it in their own pockets?
That brings me to one of my favorite comments here. So they state there should be severance packages for all. And if and when it is brought back and anyone is approached about returning, everything should be in writing. No one should have to sit and wait and leave their future in this organization's hands. Prayers and thoughts for you. That was Page Trainer Welsh who posted that. There's a lot of support for this gentleman under his comment. And these are real people out there who lost real jobs, and I hope that things get better for them. And then somebody else stated they fired the league with chat GPT. So Malik Hobson, original Malik _ used free AI content detector. And basically it looks like they used some sort of AI to write their Take-Two interactive statement about the NBA 2K League. So there's just some weird stuff with this, but I feel for the people involved.
Definitely. And we need to talk about that human cost when it comes to a lot of things with video games. The crunch with developers, the layoffs that happen with every big publisher and developer, and this is just an extension of that. And writing that statement with AI, I thought some of the passive-aggressive error messages that we get in the game, I thought that was bad, Derek, but that's pretty low as well. And I want to circle back to something that you said when we're talking about King J Mace's streams. You mentioned that he brings in people of all skill levels, and that is something that the 2K League has really been 2K leaning into that elitist scene. And there was that famous Reddit post that I referred to on the show in various articles from an EVE Online developer, former EVE Online developer, talking about how cozying up to elitists and the elite players rather than giving the home user a great experience and proper matchmaking and all the things that make the home online team play mode good and appealing and fun to play. They've shied away from that. They're doing open worlds. They're trying to do the home version of the esports league, and they've just pushed away new gamers. And the whole, get good thing that I love so much, Derek, it just comes back to that. But yeah, that's not on the 2K League players. They had a great opportunity to play video games for a living. Who wouldn't want to do that, obviously? A lot of people have made content creation or with involving video games a career, so why not? But yeah, to be cast aside like that is just really rotten. And once again, the suits, it just all goes in their pockets.
It's become more about celebrities and sponsors than it has the consumer, right? It's more about pumping up themselves.
Very commercial.
As opposed to celebrating the consumer.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about, we are great, we are NBA 2K, we are big, we are massive, we have all these sponsors, the NBA players love us, we have, the NBPA loves us, everybody loves us, and it's been less and less about the consumer every single year.
The WNBA Players Association doesn't really love them after calling them out on the terrible likenesses.
Yeah. I mean, they don't get called out enough at all for their gameplay deficiencies, the rushed classic team content, the rushed retro content, in the microtransactions, the gambling mechanics in general, the predatory behavior, all of that. So it is truly unfortunate that, more people don't speak up, and, a lot of people don't because they would feel like they're fighting a losing battle. So we did receive a few responses from the community related to this issue, and I know that you have those in front of you.
Yeah, so you mentioned Sticky Fingers responded. He said, 1, you need a good game as the core, and 2, you need something else than a 5-out game. And yeah, that's what we said, that you need those strong mechanics, obviously, not so animation heavy, something that is appealing to watch, actually demonstrates stick skills, and yeah, that style, that just everyone playing 5-out, is just not fun to watch on top of that.
Right. Who wants to tune into that on their TV or on their PC? It's like I stated prior, it's why you see such a lack of interaction on social media. I would be curious to know how many viewers they actually had, like true viewers, for games, whether it be the regular season of the 2K League or the tournament itself, etc. I wouldn't be surprised if the numbers are incredibly low.
I mean, I think Pastor Padre was charting that for a while, and he said it was in the low single thousands, I believe, and he compared it to other streams that were getting tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of views and viewers tuning in. So it definitely was low viewership, absolutely.
Yeah, and you got to think about it too. How many copies did NBA 2K24 sell? Right, over 10 million.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're having like 1,000 or under viewing, some of these games and whatnot, that is incredibly poor results.
And next up, Stephen, the Live King, says, I don't think 2K understands esports. They're going to turn it into a spectacle just for views, and it's not going to work. Their gameplay made the league unwatchable. People criticize Madden gameplay, but those tournaments are exciting due to play movement and gameplay. So yeah, other sports games are actually doing better, obviously, and I guess those Madden tournaments are a bit more well-established than the 2K League, and it's a different sport, and basketball has so many moving parts and less starting and stopping than other sports, including football, obviously. So there is differences there. But again, nail on the head, the gameplay just isn't entertaining to watch.
Madden shows a lot better, and there's a lot more variety in the ways that you can attack and need to attack in that game. Madden is far from perfect, but the animations are honestly better. They're less herky-jerky. There's less moments of that looks unrealistic in Madden. And I know that the gameplay overall in Madden for a lot of people has gotten stale, and they don't believe that the franchise has made enough changes to the gameplay over the years. And I agree that sometimes it does look similar to past releases, right? I do agree that Madden at times can feel dated from a gameplay perspective, but that doesn't change the fact that the gameplay has more variety to it, that it shows better, that the animations play out better in that series than they do in the NBA series. It is more interesting. I would rather tune in, and I'm not even a big football guy. I'm a huge basketball guy. I would rather tune in to a competitive Madden game than I would an NBA 2K esports game.
And in a similar vein, Young and Amazing says game has sucked since 21. And I would say that 2K18 was kind of that real start of that downfall. But again, to that point, when the game is not good, when the game is not entertaining to watch, you can't build a league on that.
Right, and I think that there's a lot of the gamer base that plays the game because it's the only one out there, right? In the 5-on-5 gaming space. And a lot of people, to kill time, a lot of people are playing it, even though they have a lot of gripes with it, where they're super frustrated with it. They have super 2K fatigue, but they want to play a basketball video game, and it's the newest one. So there they are on the sticks and playing it and just kind of going through the motions, kind of like you were, Andrew, before you got out of your rut. You were doing that for a couple of years. And and I didn't blame you for doing that at the time. And I don't blame for the average consumer for doing that, because it is the only option out there. And if you love basketball, sometimes you feel compelled to stick with it. So, I just don't think that, a lot of the people that even have 2K and play 2K really, truly like it.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. The desire for a new game every year, there's only one to choose from. So what are you going to do?
Exactly.
And jumping over to the NLSC Discord now for one more response, ZCB44 says, 2K League was stuck in the middle trying to please both sports and esports fans, and in the process, pleased neither. I think the main thing is that it was a replication of what is already a real-life league in the NBA. There's no real-life Overwatch or anything like that. To 2K players, it probably didn't feel much different than spectating a Pro-Am game. They'll either play 2K themselves, or just go watch the real NBA. And yeah, I agree. You kind of are stuck in the middle there where basketball fans will just watch real basketball, 2K players will just want to play NBA 2K, or they'll watch a content creator's stream because they feel it's a better product. And like King J Mace doing the Elite Streetball League with all his slider settings that are optimized for defensive gameplay and to allow for variety of gameplay. It's just the on-court product is just not what people want to see. And as ZCB says, there's no real-life Overwatch or Rocket League or things like that. So there's that fantasy that people can indulge in, whereas if they want to watch basketball, even if they're not thrilled about the current state of the NBA, they're still going to watch it over a video game.
Yeah. So I'm not a fan of today's NBA product, like the real-life product, but I would watch an NBA game today 100 times over an NBA 2K League game.
Same.
Right? Like, why would somebody tune into a 2K League game when they have live NBA games, during the season to watch? And that's a great point, too, about Overwatch and Rocket League and whatnot. Let's go back to first-person shooters. You can't just tune into a live session where people are killing each other. Right, like on TV in real life, and like you can like a true NBA game. Like you said, there's a fantasy element to that, right? And I know that sounds morbid, but the first-person shooter streams and leagues and whatnot are very popular because of that action, because it's action that you can't just turn on the TV and see it. There's a fantasy element to it. So of course those are going to be more popular because people, if they want to get their basketball fix, they can just jump on their PC or TV, watch a stream or watch a live game and get their dose of true real life NBA action, which far exceeds, the virtual NBA 2K League action. So yeah, I completely agree with that comment.
And with all that being said, it is a real shame that people have dedicated their lives to this. They've dedicated 5 or 6 years, especially with the younger people, a big chunk of their lives committing to being professional esports players, professional NBA 2K players, and now it seems to have been cast aside very unceremoniously, everything up in the air. I just hope that they're taken care of, that they land on their feet, whatever happens. But yeah, the 2K League has definitely got some things to work out, and it's going to be very commercial with celebrities and NBA players and influencers. It's not going to feel as community-oriented as it was supposed to. Even there were some problems. As I said, it didn't really benefit most gamers anyway, so that's also made it harder for us to get into it because if anything, it is affecting our enjoyment by the impact it has on the online team play modes that we have access to. But at the same time, I feel for everybody who's lost their jobs, the producers obviously, and the crew that are working on the broadcasts and so forth. So yeah, hopefully everybody lands on their feet, and it's maybe wishful thinking, but hopefully Take-Two does right by all of them. Yeah, for those of you who were laid off, not sure if you listen to the NLSC podcast, any of you, but we feel for you. And it's tough. It's a tough situation for you, especially the younger crowd who has basically made your young adult life all about this. And I hope that every single one of you lands on your feet. Before we go on, a reminder that the NLSC podcast comes out every week on the NLSC, nba-live.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast apps. If you're listening on any of those apps, we'd greatly appreciate a review. To keep up with the show and everything we're doing with basketball gaming in general, connect with us on social media. On Twitter and Facebook, we are the NLSC. We also have an Instagram, NLSC Basketball, and on YouTube, we're youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. Once again, visit us at nba-live.com, where in addition to the podcast, you'll also find all of our original content, as well as our forum and modding community. So Derek, before we talk about our NBA Live 10 session, just want to give a quick PSA that the Xbox Live store for Xbox 360 is shutting down as of July 29th. and there are a lot of sales on those digital titles that you can get through the Xbox Live Marketplace, one of which is NCAA Basketball 09 March Madness Edition. Now, it is not available outside of North America. Possibly. I haven't looked into how it might be possible for me to get it and for other people outside of North America to get it. I will update people on that. But certainly if you are in North America and you haven't grabbed that yet, I think it's on sale for about $1.50 at the moment, US, so not even $3 Australian. So if I can get it, I'm definitely going to try, Derek. Once again, July 29th. This is going out July 9th. So if you're in the future and you're listening to this, hopefully you've acted by July 29th. If not, this is too late for you, I'm sorry. But a PSA for now, check out those titles that are on sale for as little as $1 or $1.50, Derek, including NCAA Basketball 09 March Madness Edition.
Sad day, right? Xbox 360 was an incredibly loved console. It has some of the best releases in video game history, and of course, as does PS3. I just think that was a great generation of gaming, and I would definitely look to snag those deals. I think that's a complete steal for NCAA Basketball 09. I think that game is actually decently strong, and kind of like NBA Live 09 was for that series. So definitely check that out. So, Andrew, NBA Live 10, we just keep coming back to it. And this was your idea to play this time. I think you had special interest in playing using Team USA, considering the fact that the Team USA team in real life was announced and they're having their practice today. And I would like to say that the USA team that we used in NBA Live 10, which is reflective of the 2008 team, is better than what we're putting out today. I'm just going to go over those players real quick, Andrew. We had Carlos Boozer, Jason Kidd, LeBron James, Darren Williams, Michael Redd, Dwayne Wade, Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard, Chris Bosh, Chris Paul, Tayshaun Prince, and of course, Carmelo Anthony. But in this game, we played against Argentina, and Argentina had a pretty solid squad. Former Bull and, somebody that you took a liking to, Andreas Nocioni, was on that team. They had Carlos Delfino, Manu Ginobili. They also had Luis Scola, former Clipper Pablo Prigioni. He also played with the Knicks as well. So they had some pieces. They also had Fabricio Oberto, who spent some time with the Spurs and whatnot. So they played us close for most of this game. But man, that gameplay on NBA Live 10 just keeps us coming back. It's super fun. Some great highlights. That video is up on the NLSC YouTube. And yeah, the only thing that's really poor gameplay-wise, in my opinion, with NBA Live 10 are those damn alley-oops.
Oh, it lets the game down so much, doesn't it? Having not being able to throw some great lobs to plays right at the rim, those 40 passes to plays in the mid-range, players just not catching them, just not even on target. And funnily enough, I've played the demo recently, or a few weeks back actually, and I sent you some clips from my demo gameplay, and it is easier to throw alley-oops in the demo. So once again, that's a case of a patch, a post-release patch, breaking things as well. It did fix a few issues with Live 10, the 2 patches it received, but it also broke a few things, including alley-oops. But it's one of the few things that we don't like about Live 10.
Yeah, I think that the fast breaks are great. I think that the variety of dunks are awesome. LeBron James was throwing it down like his real self with his signature dunk. You had a couple signature dunks with Kobe during that game. Wade was throwing it down with power like he did in real life. We had a lot of one-on-one moves. I don't know if you noticed, but I was absolutely spamming the signature size-ups for those players. The fact that they had signature size-ups in NBA Live 10, but they didn't in Live 15, 16, 18, or 19 just shows you that they weren't focused on the right things. And they don't all look the same. Wade has a different one than LeBron, who has a different one than Kobe, who has a different one than Chris Paul, etc. And you can burst out of them. They are smooth with the dribble. And, we had step back fadeaways. You had a spinning fadeaway with Melo in the post. I had a juke, Hakeem-esque fadeaway with Carmelo in the post. We were getting in the mid-range with Kobe. I just think that the gameplay on NBA Live 10 is incredibly balanced. I think you would agree. I think one of my favorite sequences was where you had 2 blocks in a row on defense with Dwight Howard, and the 2 blocks were not canned at all. They were loud and they were awesome, and we ended up getting out on the fast break after the second one. But yeah, I just think from offense and defense and just the overall atmosphere in that game, I just think that EA Sports did a good job with NBA Live 10.
They really did, and as we've said before, it's so wistful revisiting that game. As much as we love it, just seeing what could have been if they didn't change direction. And we know now that NBA Elite 11, that direction was in the works for a couple of years. They had that planned even before Live 10 came out. But why would you not change direction? Obviously, yes, you are working on that behind the scenes, but look at the reception. Look how people really enjoyed that gameplay. Yes, it didn't sell as well as 2K10. 2K10 also came out on more platforms, obviously. Imagine if we had Live 10 on PC. Imagine what we could have done with modding with Live 10 on PC. And obviously there is some inroads being made on that with the PS3 emulator, possibly changing some textures and editing rosters. You know, we'll see what happens in the future with that. But if we'd had a native PC release, just would have been so awesome. Signature animations, signature running styles, they were just going into so much depth with that. And again, just went completely away from it with NBA Elite 11. And it really means that 2009 is the last time we had true competition in the space, 2 competing titles that you really couldn't go wrong with either one of them. And I think 2K10 is the deeper release across the board. We had a great game of 2K10, incidentally, running it back with the Bulls versus Jazz with the 97 roster mod.
Game-winning block, Luke Longley.
Absolutely.
From side at the last second, game-winning block. That video is also up on the NLSC YouTube, those highlights. So we have an NBA 2K10 video up, an NBA Live 10 video up. We're not asking you to compare those 2 games because we have fun with both of them, and we think that they both have some great qualities. But go on to the NLSC YouTube and check out those highlights.
And you can see how much fun we're having with both games to that point. And that's why we need the competition and choices in the space. I feel like we say it a lot, but it doesn't get any less true, Derek. And you can see when we had those 2 strong releases with 2K10 and Live 10. But yeah, Live 10 has just been such a wonderful game to go back to. We've had the default matchups, the default rosters, the 2010 rosters. We've had the fantasy teams. We've had makeshift retro teams. That's been fun to do. And now breaking out Team USA seemed like as you said, that it was indeed what inspired me. The fact that the Olympics are coming up and that team is practicing right now. But yeah, that Redeem team was pretty strong. A bounce back, winning all 8 games and the gold medal, beating Spain in the final. Argentina, as you mentioned, a strong team. They were the bronze medalists that year.
Yeah, 2008 Team USA was no 92 Dream Team, but they still had a lot of fun pieces and a lot of talent and whatnot. You mentioned signature movement animations. Did you see when I was dribbling up the court with Jason Kidd? It looked exactly like Jason Kidd.
Fantastic.
Going up it just looks just absolutely awesome. So Andrew, before we close the show, I wanted to bring up a fun fact for the episode. So you remember Mike Mitchell, who played for the Cleveland Cavaliers and the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA?
Yes.
So he played from 1978 to 1988 in the NBA, so from age 23 to age 32. And he was one hell of a player. Go back and watch his highlights. I compare him as a scorer to guys like Carmelo Anthony. So he had multiple 20-point-a-game seasons. He was an all-star. He averaged 24.5 in his all-star season, but had other seasons where he averaged 23.3, 22.2, 23.4. He also averaged 20.5, 22.2. His career scoring average in the NBA was 19.8, and he shot about 50% from the field for his career. Good post player, good mid-range player. He, was strong from the foul line, just a good rebounder. He's just really fun to watch. If you don't know enough about Mike Mitchell, go on YouTube, watch some of his highlights. Really, really good player. But that's not why I brought him up. So I didn't know this, but he played pro ball in Italy all the way up until 98, 99, Andrew. He was age 43. And why I think this is cool is because at 43 years old, in Liga Serie A, so the competitive league in Italy, he averaged 18.4 points and 1.3 steals and 4.6 rebounds and played 36.3 minutes per game at age 43. I never heard about this before. I didn't know he was still playing. And the fact that he played all the way up almost to the year 2000 and was still so awesome, not surprising watching his highlights that his game would translate into older age. But yeah, that is awesome.
That is a fun fact, yeah. And there are a few players like that, actually, that fly under the radar that are still playing into their 40s. I'm drawing a blank on the name at the moment. I'll have to look it up. But I was looking at somebody from the mid-2000s who was still playing as of... It might actually still be active now. We talk, obviously, LeBron is still active, but somebody who came along around about the same time as LeBron or a couple of years earlier, still playing in Europe, I believe. Once again, I'm blanking on the name. But like that, into their 40s, playing some 25, almost 30 years pro. It's unheard of.
Yeah. You want to hear something else that's cool about Mike Mitchell is, so in his last season at age 43, he averaged 18.4. And in his freshman year of college in 74-75, Andrew, he averaged 18.4. So how about that? Yeah, no, I think it's amazing that players can continue their careers overseas in the competitive leagues. But if you can make it almost into your mid-40s and not be a bench warmer, not be a role player, and you can still be a star in one of the competitive leagues, you are a machine. So that's pretty awesome for Mike Mitchell.
And it's not the player I was thinking of, but Darryl Dawkins actually had a brief comeback in 99-2000 as well. So he came back, obviously started in 1975, his pro career. So yeah, he's another player that kind of had a break in between, obviously, but was playing overseas after he left the NBA and played actually into the 21st century.
Yeah, he also tried out for the Celtics.
That's right, yes.
And that was in 1995. He took part in the Celtics rookie free agent camp that was held at Brandeis University. I would have loved to see Darryl Dawkins in Celtics green. Apparently, people were stating that he was not completely in shape and he had lost some of his explosion and all of that stuff. But man, if there was a Darryl Dawkins Celtics team, I don't care if it was at the end of his career or not, I'd be putting that team on the virtual hardwood all the time.
Oh, absolutely. It reminds me also of those rumors that Wilt Chamberlain was thinking about a comeback in the 80s, in his 50s. That would have been incredible. A crossover between Wilt Chamberlain and Michael Jordan's era.
Apparently, he could still play, too. Apparently, he was playing in charity games around that time and was absolutely dominating, swatting shots. And these were games that, people like Magic Johnson were playing in, and former players who took part in those games were stating Wilt could have still been a dominant force in the NBA if he had come back in the 80s.
And I suppose you look at the big three now, where we got some players playing their post-NBA career and some players like Mike Bibby returning to action after retiring over a decade ago. So it is cool to see these older players getting a run again.
I also think that's why the big three is interesting to a lot of people, right? I think that the big three is done well in part because you get to see some of these former players continue their basketball life after the NBA and see them continuing to be competitive. I remember seeing a highlight of Jason Richardson in the Big Three League after he retired, just throwing down a ridiculous dunk. And it's just so cool to see that he still had it, right? That he can still move like that and that he still wants to be competitive and be Showtime and whatnot. So, yeah, I like the Big Three League. I think that they do a pretty good job with that league. And, I'd like to see more players in it.
Would be pretty fun to see a video game based on it, obviously, but that might have to wait till it's a bit bigger, a bit more financially stable.
Agreed.
That's always fun to hear some trivia like that, and we will endeavour to continue to share fun facts like that in our articles, on the podcast, and of course, our YouTube videos as well. And once again, Derek, shout out to everybody who responded to this week's community question. Great insights into the 2K League situation.
Also, one hell of a top 10 this week. It was full of variety, and there's been new people entering the top 10. We've had a lot of different games being shown, and it's still going strong in year 4, Andrew.
Awesome to see, and I know you have a lot of fun putting that together, and it's a lot of fun for us to watch each and every week. So stay tuned for that, my articles, and our future videos on the YouTube channel.
Gameplay videos, we're going to be continuing to upload them more and more, and we have fun doing so.
With that being said, that has brought us to the end of this week's show. As always, we thank you for tuning in and invite you to join us again next week, either on the NLSC, NBA-live.com, our YouTube channel, or your podcast app of choice. In the meantime, please connect with us on social media. That's where you can get in touch with us and, of course, stay up to date with all of our content. So, Derek, go ahead and plug the handles.
Yeah, you can reach me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at D43G and at D4384. I'm also on the NLSC, D43, and on YouTube, D43.
As for me, I'm Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on X. The NLSC is on X and Facebook at the NLSC. We're also NLSC Basketball on Instagram and Threads. We're on YouTube at NBA Live Series Center. And of course, keep a look to the NLSC itself, nba-live.com, for everything we do for basketball video games. So, thank you once again for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone.